Three. Hello creators, how are you guys? It's great to hang out with you again for another Video Creators Podcast episode. And today we want to talk with you about different ways to make a full-time income on YouTube. I know that you've heard of a lot of different things that you could be doing, but where should you focus your time and your energy and your attention to get the best results? That's what we want to talk about a little bit here today. And joining me today are two of the strategists on our team here at Video Creators, Lennon and Delana. Hey guys, how are you?
Hello.
Hey. So I asked them to join me more often for these live streams and these podcast episodes going forward here this year because I think I might have something to share with you guys, but I want to give you more perspectives, more opinions, and more background. And they have a lot of different experiences and insights that they've gleaned from working with a lot of our clients that we work with and the creators that we're serving. And I wanted them to bring their knowledge to the table as well. And give it more of like a friendly type feel this year of some friends hanging out talking about YouTube as opposed to me just plowing through some notes that I prepared for you guys, which we do have notes, so it'll be good to do that a little bit here as well. But for those of you guys who are in the live stream, welcome. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys here, and especially thank you to Modern Day Tech, Eric, who is moderating this and producing today's live stream and podcast recording. If you guys have questions at all throughout this episode, please be sure to drop them in the chat, and Modern Day Tech, aka Eric, will be putting those questions in front of us, and we will do our best to get to as many of those as we can here at the end. And if you are looking to learn more about modern technology and tools that you can use to make your life better and easier, looking for deals and tutorials on all that stuff, anything practical related to your life in the field of technology, check out Modern Day Tech, and you'll love his channel. Eric's got a lot of good stuff going up there. So this is going to be a fun show, guys, talking about how you can make more money, make a full-time income on YouTube. So I think Len and Delana and I each have something we want to share with you guys. Delana, I'll let you go first. Tell us a little bit about like when you're working with clients and you see people ask that very common question, how do I make more money on YouTube? I know not everything's right for everyone, but what are some kind of good ideas that you've seen work pretty regularly and consistently for people?
Well, I think that this question especially comes up a lot in like entertainment channels,
Mm-hmm.
and people who aren't doing education, and they're just kind of like, well, I'm not selling a product, so can I even like make money on YouTube? Like, is it going to be super lucrative for me other than AdSense, if their AdSense is even that lucrative? And so I think that's a lot of the tension that we see with a lot of creators nowadays. And a couple of options that those creators have is I think a big one, especially if you're building a good relationship with your audience and you're really focused on like building like a hardcore, just like core community. Patreon is a great option. It's a way for you to, even though you're not taking them to a product necessarily, there are a lot of viewers that whenever you are building that relation, like they want to go to the next step with you. They're like, some of them are even waiting on the opportunity for you to give them that opportunity to, support you further. And so Patreon is a great way to do that. And you can set up different levels of it. And then of course, YouTube is actually rolling out its own membership program. So that's super easy, right there, click of a button. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to leave YouTube. And I think that more creators, I just had a consult with a creator recently. He has a music channel, and he wants to start a Patreon page eventually, but he felt like since his channel was still relatively small, he was like, I think it's this, they don't feel like worthy enough to have a Patreon page yet,
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't have like 100,000 subscribers, so people don't really care about me yet. But maybe you have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 subscribers that maybe 100 of those or even like 50 of those would really care about, giving you $10 a month or something like that. And I think that that is actually super, super important for creators, especially whenever we're getting started, because if we don't have any sort of return on investment, because maybe we're not investing a ton of money into it, but we invest a lot of mental energy and emotional energy, and we're like putting ourselves out there, that if we don't see some sort of return on investment, whether that's from our community or just, monetarily or whatever, then we'll get burnt out really fast. And whenever we don't have another option like a Patreon page or some other way that we can see that return on investment, then we immediately, like, all of our focus goes to vanity metrics, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really important as creators, especially whenever we're first getting started, to really get creative. Like, these are the places where we get to be creative, right? Like, we're always looking for ways that we can be more creative with our content. And that is one area of, like, whenever you're setting up your Patreon page or your YouTube membership, like, what is something that my audience would find really valuable, especially if you have primal branding elements and stuff like that that you're focusing on incorporating into your content. You can put that on a mug, and then they get a mug if they sign up for the highest tier of the Patreon page or something like that has a saying that is for your core community or whatever. So that's definitely one way that I think that a lot of creators kind of skip over, especially at the beginning of their YouTube journey.
Yeah, Snail Trail 4x4 says, my Patreon is doing great. I feel that's because I give back to them, people that are supporting me. But then you have Tronics Fix, who says, I love the Patreon idea, but it seems like just another thing I have to do to bring more value. You guys got any thoughts on, is it like just another busy thing you got to do, or like, because that I resonate with that, because that's how I felt when I was doing Patreon. It was like, man, like, it's not that I didn't want to deliver value. It was just like, I felt like it was taking away from what I wanted to do for them on my channel. So, any thoughts about that, or is that just kind of the way it is?
I personally think that, what you said is it. Like, you knew what you actually wanted to do, and sort of knowing that first is really the trick. Like, and then figuring out what's your big goal here with trying to make some money. And then, so I'll use my wife for an example, because she's starting a Patreon, or has started a Patreon, and she's been really overwhelmed by it, because she's feeling that same, like, is this ready? Is this time? And she's got, close to 15,000 followers on her Instagram account. She makes content for moms, and she's building this really strong community. She really has dialed in, like, stuff that does well. And now what we're seeing is these people are coming in, and she's offering these tiers that are at $20 levels and so on. And she's like, but they're not engaging the way I thought they would in Patreon, and it's been frustrating. And then she started to contact them directly, and they said, well, we don't worry about that as much as we just want to give you this money because you've given us so much value already.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I think it's like, it's a little bit of both. Like, make sure that you feel like this fits in your wheelhouse of things that you actually want to do, and know what your ultimate goal. Hers is community, so it makes sense to do Patreon. If yours isn't community, maybe it's not your thing.
I'd be interested, for those of you guys who are in this live stream right now who are members of the channel, like Born 100 Years Too Late, Welcome to Chickenlandia, Modern Day Tech, the Richards Revealed, TRR, Patty Brichard, like a lot of you guys who are here. I'm curious to know how much of it is like, hey, we want to become a channel member or a patron because we just want to support the work that you're doing and we want you to focus your time and energy on that, or how much of it was we became a member or a patron because of the perks that you offered. Not that the perks, I'm not saying perks like don't do perks, although I have seen some people do very well with offering no perks at all and just saying, hey, support me so I can continue to make this free content for you. That's worked a lot for people too, but and to your point, Lennon, you need a pretty strong community to pull that off, I think. Lennon, what else? What do you see happening a lot in your world when you're working with clients in terms of other ways people can make a full-time income on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I try to encourage people of, and we talked about this a little in our last live stream together, Tim, but just think about things sort of outside the box. Like, what if you're a smaller channel? What are some big ideas that you can sort of scale down and make those make more sense for where you're at? So, for one thing, I'm a big proponent of live events, and so I was a musician first, and so that idea of face-to-face interaction and getting to have the energy in the room and be a part of something, I think is really important. And especially if you're trying to build authority in a niche or even develop content, live events can be amazing ways to do those two things with, very little effort, because all of a sudden you can maybe bring in somebody who is also an authority or even above you in the space you're in and say, hey, would you speak at this live event? I'm going to tape it. We're going to bring some people in, and now you're building content, you're building authority, you're developing relationships. All three of these things are really, really important. And then, I always say too, people are like, well, I don't know. I want to go to the cool room and I want to do this thing. And it's like, they think too big. I would say, put it in somebody's living room, like find a cool living room, only let 20 people in the door, and max it out and create that FOMO and say, like, we're only letting 20 people in. And after that, you just turn people away and you just decide, like, okay, we're going to create an environment here. We're going to make this special for people that are here. And the more that you can really do that and just think about the consumer first and not about you and this needing to be the biggest thing ever, but just making it the right thing that feels good, I think that can really go a long way.
Yeah. And then there's like another layer on top of that too, which is that when you start building connections and relationships with people, that often those turn into things that you never would have otherwise have been able to predict, in terms of whether it's a deal that ends up working out or a connection that person can make for you. That's kind of how we got started, the three of us, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, I want to come back to that story actually, because that'd be fun. But for those of you guys, so the chat is kind of saying, Tim, I wanted to support you, but I'm not going to lie, I kind of wanted the perks too. So I think it was like a combination of I really wanted to support Tim, and I kind of already committed to wanting to do that. But when I saw the perks that were available, that was kind of like, I pushed me over the edge, So it was a combination of both, which is good. Thank you guys for being members and making it possible for us to hang out here together. So let's talk about those connections a little bit, Lennon. So let's start with you, Delana. How did we get started here?
I had a beauty channel, and I wanted to figure out how to grow my beauty channel. And so I I was on YouTube. I YouTube searched how to grow your YouTube channel. And then I found Tim Schmoyer, the man himself. And
not the one and only, because I actually graduated from college with another Tim Schmoyer. So
are you serious?
Yeah, he actually had youtube.com/Tim Schmoyer, and I really wanted it. And so we're friends now, back in college and stuff. But so he actually gave up his Google, because at the time it was tied to your Google address. And so he gave me his email address and moved to a different email address so I could have it. And then I never really ended up using it. So I felt kind of bad. But we're still good. We're still friends.
Just send him like $50 or something. Just be like, thanks.
Yeah. Sorry, but yes. Then we connected that way.
Yeah. And then eventually Tim started making these videos about this crazy event called Video Labs Live. And I was like, what? And I remember you started saying in the videos, you're like, I just wish that I could, I remember the feeling of, I wish I could just put my computer in front of somebody, like my channel in front of somebody, and just say, what do I need to do to make this grow? And I was like, yes, that's exactly how I feel. And so I ended up going to the Video Labs Live, and I realized that my mind was blown by YouTube analytics, and I absolutely loved that whole side of it way more than I loved what I was actually doing on my beauty channel. And so I still do have my beauty channel, but I've kind of moved away from it. But anyways, yeah, so eventually Tim and I connected. He was looking for strategists, and I applied for the position, and I had kind of like grown my knowledge of growing on YouTube and how YouTube analytics works, and working. And I had been helping people grow their social media for like I had worked at beauty salons and stuff like that, and everywhere that I went, I was always helping them grow their social media already. And so it just kind of made perfect sense that whenever we connected, yeah, that's kind of how everything happened there. So it was just through a live event that we connected, and then everything just kind of snowballed. So
yeah. So to Lennon's point, it's the connections, it's the relationships that you make often. And I found that to be true. Like, people really underestimate that. If we're going to talk about more than one way to make a full-time income on YouTube, we can spend a lot of time talking about the brand deals and the Patreons and the memberships and the sponsorships and all the affiliate stuff. Like, you guys have heard a lot of that stuff before, so I don't need to reiterate that here. But I think one thing is that we don't talk about is how valuable it is to make those connections with other people in the community. And so now, kind of in a way, like Delana, you kind of are now full-time on YouTube, working with
YouTube is my full-time job.
It is. Yeah. Working with our clients and the creators that we work with. So, and then Lennon, how did that work for us? Pretty similar, right? Because I typically hire from my customer base, because I figure those are the people who know the brand, are committed to the brand, and they've already expressed that they're invested into YouTube, into growing, and so that's how we connected too, I think, right?
Yeah, but I do want to address this. This is really important. Simply Beth says, "Go Chiefs." I think that's very important. Yeah. So
Kansas City, huh?
Yeah. So sorry, I felt like that was above all the thing we should talk about. So yeah, I mean, similar to Delana, like I had a channel. I think mine kind of stems from, I've talked about music. So I started in as a musician and was a touring musician for 10 years, got into more production and songwriting and things like that. And I just saw that a lot of musicians were doing the same things that I think a lot of creators on YouTube are doing. They're making things, and then they're like, well, what do I do next? How do I make this work? How do I get this in front of people? And so I just started making videos for musicians specifically, just saying, like, here's the business side of things. Here's how I spent 10 years on the road developing a fan base, developing, again, relationships, because I've always said that adage of it's not what is it, what you know, it's who you know. I think that's true, but I think it's not even who you know, it's how you know them that really makes it more personal. When you've developed like a friendship or some sort of acquaintanceship that's a little deeper, that's usually the ones that start to pay off emotionally as well as like monetarily. And so I just was doing this content and found myself in video labs, and then also going to Vid Summit out in Los Angeles, and connected actually with a couple of Video Labs graduates there, and we really hit it off, and then ended up going to the Video Labs breakfast and kind of hanging, and I just finagled and told all the lies I could to make sure I got in here right away.
It's actually kind of a grueling process to get in, but you guys both made it, so congratulations. I'm glad you guys are both here. Yeah, so we met at that breakfast, and what happened after that? And then we did the 3-month trial. Is that?
It was about a 3-hour trial or 3-hour trial that we
3-minute trial.
3-minute trial. Oh gosh, no, it's way more than that.
Yeah, the 3 months for Delana and I both were to basically do a session on how we would strategize your channel, which I remember being supremely intimidating, because I was like, and I'll put intimidating dad joke there.
Oh, nice one.
But yeah, that was a scary one, coming in and being like, I've watched this guy now for however long, and now I have to like go in and analyze and tell him what I think he's doing wrong. That seems kind of insulting and scary.
I have to
No,
be
it
the
was
master to the YouTube master.
No,
Yeah.
it was good. I mean, you guys know now. You're like, yeah, Tim really doesn't know what he's no. No, like, yeah, there's a lot of things to work on, and I appreciate it when people point it out. Although I think your Kansas City Chiefs thing lost us a few members now. Looks like in the chat, people are like, I'm canceling now. That's hilarious. Yeah, so like connections and relationships really do make a big difference, and that's how both of you guys are here, and I'm glad to have you. So Delana, you're in Dallas, married, and cats, and
Married, cats, yes.
And Lennon, you're in Kansas City, married with 2 kids, no cats.
No cats. We have a dog.
A dog. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Now everyone's like, ooh, how do we get into Video Labs? That's a whole nother conversation, but you go to videocreators.com/Video Labs for more about that. Now, Lena and Delana are leading Video Labs, and it's fun to see the success that the creators you're working with are getting, and seeing them grow and reaching more people, changing their lives, and how the work you guys are doing are actually changing their lives too, with helping them make more money and by growing their channels and everything too. I think when it comes to like, how do we, like, there's more way to make money on YouTube, and like more than one way to make a full-time income. And the only thing that comes to mind for me is the thing I've seen happen consistently over and over and over again for creators. There's like 2 different groups, and this is going to be a little bit too restrictive, but you'll get the idea. There are these people who are, I just want to be popular. I need to get tons of views and get lots of subscribers. And I'm going to make money by landing sponsorship deals, by banking on AdSense revenue, and basically going like the media company type of business model, where it's like I'm collecting tons of eyeballs and then selling those eyeballs to advertisers, which isn't like a bad direction to go or anything. But that's kind of, there's like that whole group of people who are thinking, and then there's this other group that I have seen be way more predictable, far more consistent, and actually serve people better and be far more lucrative and less stressful than that model, which is instead they're coming to YouTube with this business idea already in mind. And they're like, here's the value that I want to deliver to people, that I want to provide in an issue in my videos. And then they're using YouTube as one avenue of many, but primarily as one avenue to deliver that value to someone in their target audience. And so they're delivering this value through their videos, and then the videos actually aren't the product themselves. The videos are kind of more like the lead generation or the customer acquisition or whatever you want to call it. It's the marketing arm for how this value that they're then selling gets attention. And the video is how they earn credibility. And the 2 models aren't mutually exclusive by any means. It's not like you have to pick, the red pill or the blue pill, and then that's kind of it. I mean, here at Video Creators, we do brand deals and sponsorships when it makes sense for us to do that, but we don't have to do too many of them because the business side is far more lucrative and actually is better aligned with the value that we want to deliver to you guys, the creators that we work with. And so it's not like you have to pick one or the other, but most of the time, the creators who start down this more business opportunity direction end up like not really focusing too much on the ad direction, because they find they can go full-time much more quickly and serve people much better with the value that assuming that they know the value that they want to deliver. Now, sometimes it's like, I just want to play video games, or I just want to, and there's like share my family story, and there's value behind that, but it's more of a perceived relationship. And so in those cases, you end up selling like community more so than like an online course or a live event that you're going to come see me at, or a book that I'm going to write. Or it's a little less I'm helping you overcome this dire problem that you have and solving this problem, and more about I'm giving you this relationship that you feel is valuable, and we can take a step further in this other community or context together. So any thoughts you guys have? Anything you see as you guys are working with our clients and working with creators in one-on-one consultations and in video labs, and action plan and all that comes to mind for you guys about that topic?
In terms of like capturing, like selling a product, like taking.
Yeah, and creating a business around your
Yeah.
channel that's a little bit broader than just selling eyeballs.
Yeah, I think that a big thing that like business owners, whenever they're using YouTube as kind of like, I guess, top of the funnel in a way, is that I feel like a lot of them get like really, really narrow view of just like their goals and where they want their viewers to go for their business, but it's really important that whenever you're using YouTube for that purpose, that you have it more like big picture in mind of, I'm going to bring them in with like helpful, valuable information, and then I'm going to like build a relationship with them. So this is like discoverable content, and then community content. I'm going to like build a deeper relationship with them. And once they know, like, and trust me, then I can take them to the next step of like offering my course or pitching my book, or and not just like always having only our goals in mind, but having the viewer goals in mind, and how like what they are looking to get out of our content, and kind of where we need to meet them each step of the way. And sometimes meeting them each step of the way means taking them to the next step, which means that we make a video, that has valuable information, but at the end of it, we send them to buy our book, or sign up for our course, or maybe sign up for our private community where you can have a back and forth with them all the time, or whatever it may be. But I think just not getting too narrow view of like what your goals are, but like actually having a good idea of what the customer journey is going to be like on YouTube itself, and when to take the next step with them.
Yeah. Cool. Let's dive into some questions here that you guys are asking about this. And I think this will help some of the stuff you guys are asking here too. You guys got some good questions. So if you have questions, make sure you tag Modern Day Tech in the chat so he can see that, and he'll get those in front of us. Let's start with our super chats. Thank you. I Fun with Chris, and then also First 1000 Hours says, what do you think about doing a hook, intro, and then a short ad to point people to an affiliate link in the description, then go into my content? Would you guys recommend, in terms of like making money on YouTube, what would be a good format for pitching an affiliate link?
I think that if you're gonna pitch an affiliate link, sorry, I'm trying to make sure that I understand sort of how this is going to work. But if you're going to pitch an affiliate link, you have to first make sure that that value aligns with the value of your audience. So for me, if I'm thinking about, this client, Delana mentioned someone that was doing music earlier. Well, if they're pitching an affiliate link for shampoo, that's not necessarily going to align with what the audience's needs are. So you want to make sure that that really feels good to you. I would also never pitch an affiliate for anything that you don't personally back or haven't like checked out, that you understand like that it is truly valuable to your audience, because that stuff will come back to bite you tenfold. And I know these feel like common sense things, but you'd be surprised how many people want to take shortcuts in, I just want to get some money going. I just want to get some money going. Like, in the long game, you're going to make a lot more money being really careful about what it is that you represent and what represents you and your brand. But I would say that if you can't in that video tell what the real value is of that thing that you are then selling as an affiliate, then I don't think it would work. But I do think starting with a hook, making sure you're then delivering what a problem is, and now this affiliate product actually solves that problem that you're delivering, and you're clearly communicating that also in your title and thumbnail, I think that can work beautifully, especially if it aligns with you and your audience. But just wanted to make sure that those caveats were kind of covered first.
I think what all this boils down to, you guys, is how you define a business model, because the same thing that makes a business grow is the same thing that makes a YouTube channel grow. That's why these things can work so well together. A business model being defined as the rationale for how an organization delivers, creates, delivers, and captures value. So on YouTube, like most creators have learned that if to grow, I need to create and deliver value. And then the audience is consuming that value. But what a lot of creators then stop at is like they haven't really thought through as much how they're going to capture value. And they assume that the capturing part just kind of accidentally happens as your channel grows. And that is not the case. I have worked with many multi-million subscriber channels who are just barely making it. One I worked with was making 1.5 million subscribers, making around $600 per month. So there's not a direct correlation between subscribers or views and revenue. Likewise, I've worked with another channel that only had a couple thousand subscribers. I think like almost 3,000 subscribers, and they were making $2 million a year from their YouTube channel because they were an insurance agent, and he was reviewing different insurance policies and explaining insurance stuff and things. And so people would watch his videos to learn about different policies and terms. They would grow to know, like, and trust him, and then would click his links to buy a plan from him or something, right? So it's more about how you create, deliver, and capture value. That's what makes money on YouTube. So we're talking a little bit more about the capturing, but I think the mistake a lot of people make is they just jump straight to let me do affiliate links and let me kind of do that. And like, as opposed to really defining that alignment between the value they're delivering and the value that they're capturing. All those things got to be aligned in order for this to work.
And first 1,000 hours did say that their affiliate link is tested and they highly recommend it, which I think is awesome. So then I would say it's a great thing. You just want to make sure that you're showing then how that thing is going to get the results for the audience then from there.
Yeah. And I would also make sure that you keep in mind that like every video has a different goal, and that you're not just pointing people to your affiliate link in every single video, because I think part of it, your audience might get burnt out about, with it. But then also, okay, this video is like specifically designed, it's what we call a sales video, specifically designed to capture value. I've built this relationship. I find that this thing is valuable to my audience, and now I want to optimize on that. And so this video is specifically designed for, because I think that if you're pointing them to an affiliate link in every single video, that can, and it depends on how you're doing it, but it can hurt discoverability as well. They're abandoning the platform afterwards.
Yeah, it's more important to keep them watching when they're a first-time viewer than to go straight to a sale.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, hey, we just first met. We're just now. Will you marry me? People are like, no. So it's a little better to kind of like watch some more videos and kind of get involved with the brand and start engaging, and the conversion rate tends to go up. Yeah.
Yep.
Excel Extraordinario. Is it okay to post 2 videos one week and then post 3 videos the next week and be consistent with this, 2 or 3 videos per week? In terms of delivering value, do you guys think it matters if it's 2 or 3 videos per week and if it fluctuates back and forth? We're all shaking our head. Yeah, I don't think it matters much. I think there's ideal if you communicate it so people know when to come back. But yeah. I don't know that anyone, let me say it this way. I don't know that as many people are waiting for that day as much as they're just looking for new videos from you.
Yeah, my husband and I were actually just talking about that last night. We were talking about this one YouTuber that we both really like, and he's just uploaded, he uploads a lot now. And we were like, we start to get annoyed. I feel like annoyed is a strong word, but like annoyed by the subscription feed, because it's like where we would much rather wait. We were talking about this. We'd much rather wait on like a video that like we really care about, rather than being worried about whether he's uploading exactly when he said he was going to upload. And that's how most viewers feel.
Yeah. Welcome to Chickenlandia. Talking about connecting, Lennon. Is it worth it as a chicken channel? I guess I'm considered a homesteading channel, to go to VidCon. I really want to go, but I want to make sure it's worth it. So how much should you invest into like the connecting and the community part, and making, shaking hands and stuff in terms of growing your channel?
So, I mean, for me, I think that specifically to speak to VidCon, since that's sort of the question, I would just research, there might be other avenues, again, sort of depending on what your goal is for your channel. If you're trying to connect with other people in more the agriculture or like farming niche, things like that, you may want to find a conference that leans deeper into that. If you want to grow your video, maybe something like Vid Summit or something that goes a little more deeper into how to grow and do more things like that. Personally, I haven't gone to VidCon, but I've sort of avoided it for the sake of I didn't feel like it would benefit me as much because it's more of like a fan base, like let's get to know some people while there are learning tracks. It didn't feel like it dove deep enough for me. So that's why I chose Vid Summit, because I wanted something that was a little more niched just to growing YouTube, just to like meeting people that are trying to grow their YouTube channels. And it's a little more specific. So I would just think about that. Like, are there things that maybe you could do one that's more in the agricultural side? How could you maybe develop and build some relationships and some stories there, even for your own channel that you could use for content? And then also maybe double down with something like Vid Summit where you could go and connect and learn more about the craft of like bettering your video.
I remember I was at the second annual VidCon. So I was like, what is that, 9 years ago now or something? And that was back when it was just like in a little hotel ballroom. It was way smaller than the 30,000 people or whatever it is now. And I went primarily to learn more, and I was facing some challenges with my YouTube channel, and I went wanting to sit in some of the sessions that like the quote unquote big YouTubers were leading, and back then big meant like you had 10,000 subscribers. And I went primarily for that, but by the end of the first day, I still remember I was in the hotel lobby and I'm like, I took money out of my savings account to come here and do this. I can't go back to my wife and tell her, yeah, I didn't really get that much out of it, because I didn't feel like I was getting much out of it. And so the second day, I forced my introverted self to come out of its shell. And I was like, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to shake hands with people. I'm going to introduce myself to people. And just started walking up to random people who just looked like they were like me. They were bored and or not really talking to anybody. And back then, people weren't really playing on their cell phones. It was more of like a iPod Touch era back then. And so there weren't like people where you could tell it wasn't a big deal to just walk up to people, I guess. So at least it felt like it to me though. And some of the people I randomly walked up to are still good friends of mine today. Like we met there and I just randomly introduced myself, and we still follow each other on Instagram and comment. In fact, one of the people I met with and then I had dinner with, and it was this guy named Mark Robertson who was running this little blog called Real SEO, REEL SEO. Went up, had dinner with him, and I was like, hey, your website's great, but how come you don't do anything with video yourself? Like, you talk about YouTube. And he's like, yeah, that's a good point. So after that dinner, I was like, well, I pitched a little series to him. I was like, I'll make a weekly video for you. He's like, send me a pilot. And I did. And that is actually how I ended up on the professional side. I was already doing YouTube strategy for people, just kind of like on the side to help as I was kind of figuring it out. But that was my first step into what eventually led to video creators. So, and now we, as a team, there's like 8 people on our team now. Like, we are full-time on YouTube, and it's not because we have some mega channel, and it supports us not because we have 16 billion views a month or whatever on our channel, but because we are doing our best to create and deliver and capture value. And so even if you guys are like us and you're like, yeah, but the audience I'm going after isn't really huge. I mean, there might only be like a couple thousand people in the entire world who care about this thing. That's okay. Like, you don't have to be a super big channel. Like I said, there's not a direct correlation between channel size and revenue. It's 100% aligned with the value delivered, created, delivered, and captured. So, but yeah, that all came out. That was at the second VidCon. I think there's some people asking about differences in different events, which one's better to go to. And I don't think that there's one conference that's necessarily better than another. I think it really depends on how well are you going to take initiative and get in front of the right people, and maybe set up meetings ahead of time and make those connections happen. So I did a consultation last week with a rock and roll channel. They tell stories of rock and roll artists. and they asked this question, and we figured, you know what, it would be better for them to go to a rock and roll, for their goals, to go to a rock and roll event where like conference where they're not going to be blending in with a whole bunch of other YouTube creators, and they can instead stand out as one of the few creators who are there and talk directly with the record labels they want to talk to. That was like, we're like, go to the rock and roll event. Don't go to the YouTube event. Because, and I'm not saying one is right or wrong for everyone. It's just kind of more like the goal is getting in front of people, making those connections could definitely go a long way in helping you get started and make those connections that you need. So I do think make a short story really long for everybody. I think that is worth doing that. Gears 0422. How can I make such a good content while I'm poor? Literally all apps require money to pay for some premium access. If you didn't pay for the content, would be bad. Yeah. How do you guys, any advice for someone who wants to get started? And they're like where I was, when I took money out of savings to go to that first conference, I didn't have any money at all. So is that the solution? Like take money out of savings, but what if you don't have savings? Like what should you do?
I think that this is another opportunity where we as creators get to be really creative, right? And I know that it's hard because it feels like there's just this wall in front of us, and we are just like, I'm never going to get to the other side if I don't have access to all the things that I need access to make amazing content. But it depends. I don't know what your channel is about necessarily, but I would maybe shift your focus from like production value, because viewers only care about production value so much. They really, I mean, if your mic sounds really bad and it's like screeching all over, then yeah, that's not fun for viewers. But for the most part, they only care about like how your content makes them feel or what it helps them achieve or anything in between. And that has a lot less to do with your microphone and your editing software and stuff like that. And it has everything to do with you and how you are connecting with your audience and how you are delivering information and stuff like that. I don't know what apps you're looking into in terms of like, I don't know, maybe editing software is maybe what you're talking about, but you can use just what's on your computer if you have one, like whether it's Movie Maker or iMovie. Is Movie Maker still a thing? I don't know. But iMovie, like those are good enough. They have enough there that you can put in little lower thirds, templates, like simple graphics and things like that, transitions, just to get you started. There's plenty of free options that will still allow you the tools you need to just like gain a footing. And I would just shift your focus from, how I can make my content exactly like all of these huge YouTubers that have like teams behind them and stuff like that, and more into how can I better connect and serve my audience, connect with and serve my audience.
Yeah.
And I this may be an unpopular opinion, but I actually, I feel like if you're going to do anything and you want to make it your business, you have to learn to realize that you're worth investing in, that you are worth investing money into. Like, I think oftentimes we'll spend money on the things that we know we need, and it may be food, it may be these things, like these are the core things we need, right? A roof over our head, whatever that is. But to some degree, if you really want to make something happen, at some point you will have to spend some money. It is just the way it'll work. And so to start to think less about, like Delana said, the production value, but more about like where can I start to save up some money? Maybe that's your first step, is like, where do I start to actually just set some money aside so I have $100 that I can all of a sudden put toward a small camera or do something like that. But first and foremost, just know that you are worth spending money on. And if you're not ready and willing to do that in some way, shape, or form, like a restaurant owner doesn't have the luxury of just going in and saying, hey, give me that building and I want all these employees and I'm just going to take this food, and then he has a business. It doesn't happen. They have the overhead of tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I think as creators, we often feel like we should be getting in at barrier level 0. And that's not always the case.
Yeah, that's actually, the way video creators got started is I was fired from one job, started doing YouTube strategy for another company, and then they went a different direction, and I lost that job. And so I was like, screw it, I'm going to do for myself what I've been teaching other people to do this whole time. And so Mass with Munir says, Tim, a special thanks to you. Seeing your videos and tips and tricks, I grew my channel in 5 months, and LOL, in my first month, I earned $3. How much did you earn in your first month? And so to Lennon's point, like I did something similar. I'm like, I'm going to make an investment into this. I see the potential. I believe in it. And one of those investments was spending a couple $1,000s to go out to that second VidCon. I wanted to go to the first one, but I didn't have the money for it at all. And by the second time, I'm like, I'm going to make this happen. But then I got to another point later when I was doing video creators full time. I was like, I got to keep going. I had to make another investment. So I took more money out of savings and told a video editor, I'm like, I'm going to give you this $3,000. You're going to edit my videos for 3 months. And at the end of these 3 months, I need to have made back $9,000 in order for this to keep working. And so he said, okay. And that's when I put together the first iteration of what later became known as Video Labs. And in that first month, instead of making that $9,000 back, I made $15,000 from it in just the first month. And I was like, oh, so here's this principle of like, it is way better to work on your business than in your business. And so whenever you can make investments into working on systems and putting things in place that generate results for people, that is I found a much better use of my time. But to answer your question, like how much did you earn the first month? The first month was zero. I started Video Creators while I was still doing strategy full-time at that other company. I knew that my job was ending in 6 months. They gave me plenty of heads up about that. I knew that June 2nd or June 15th, 2013 was going to be the last day. So I started Video Creators, the channel, on January 2nd, 2013. I had 6 months to turn this into a full-time income. And I think for me, that was part like that fire under me. Like there's a deadline on the calendar where I know my income stops. And when you know that's there, like I think you work a lot differently than if you kind of feel like, well, I got a job, I can kind of keep passively doing this. And I was like, no, I had a couple kids at that time and a wife, and I was like, I have to make this work. And so because of that, I launched Video Creators. I kind of start doing professionally what I was already doing in my full-time job for that company, as well as what I was already doing through Real SEO at the time and things too. And so I had a plan, and I learned through working with other creators, but as well as a blog that I had tried launching, and it was supported us kind of for a few years, but didn't really become what I was hoping it would become. I learned that I need to have a good way of capturing value. And so I actually launched Video Creators with this idea for 30 days to a better YouTube channel, and kicked that off as a crowdfunding campaign because I was like, I'm not going to make this unless there's people out here who want it. And so I think the YouTube channel, by the time my job ended on 2013, Video Creators had about 3,000 subscribers, but it was generating $10,000 a month in client work that I was doing, as well as in sales and in consultations. And so it was like do or die. And I'm not saying you should quit your job and then hope to make it in the 3 months, but I do think that there's something for me that working under that kind of pressure, maybe it drives Delina and Lennon crazy sometimes when I wait till last minute to do things, but I still work best under pressure when I'm like, oh shoot, this is due right now. So I did that for school.
And I don't want to say that like I'm saying go spend all your money and put yourself in the hole, but I think there's a point where, I know even for me personally, I can get to a place where I'm just in full learning mode and not acting. And you kind of have to rip the rug out from under you sometimes and say like, this is going to force me to take action, and action's way more valuable than knowledge. You can't do one without the other. Right. Like,
yeah. So yeah, that's how the first month was zero, but by the time my job ended, Video Creators making $10,000 a month. And now it's supporting a team of us, and all of us, not just Len and Delina and myself, but our business manager and the admin people and personal assistants, and all of us just love working with you guys and serving you. Speaking of 30 Days to a Better YouTube channel, that product has been our #1 bestseller since then. And I don't even know how many tens of thousands of copies it sold, but we have been working very hard on a completely brand new refresh of it. And it's like 80% new content now coming out. The launch date, we're planning on February 11th. And Lennon and Delana both made bonus courses that you guys will get for free when we relaunch this thing in February. And if you buy it like in the first week or so, something like that. And Lennon, your course is actually all about how to make money on YouTube. Is that right? You want to tell us a little bit about that free course they'll get?
Yeah, so I just kind of started out with the idea of that same thought, that thought of the mindset, and starting to think of yourself as a business, starting to be okay with the fact that as a creator, you can still think of yourself as a business, and that's totally okay. And then going into different options for revenue streams, how you can start to think about the idea of brand deals and all of those kinds of things. So by the time you walk away from that bonus course, our goal within Video Creators was to make sure that you just understood, like, this can and should be thought of as your business, even if it's just thought of like, I just want to get a little bit of the ball rolling. I want to start making a little bit of money and developing even a part-time revenue here, and then moving on from there. So just getting your feet wet in this kind of thing.
And then Delana, your bonus course for those people is about studio setup and getting started with production. Tell us about your course you made for it.
Yeah, it's kind of all encompassing. I'm really excited about it. It's basically we go over like what are just the absolute bare necessities that you need to just get started making videos, and then we kind of like move up from there. Okay, so this is like camera options that you should consider, and if depending on your goals, the type of content that you want to make and stuff like that. We talk about camera, lighting, editing options, even like how to create like simple lower thirds and simple graphics and stuff like that. We go into even time management I put in there, and some other things that like other people don't really think about whenever they think like, oh, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, but then it's like, oh, I need a lot of time to put into my videos, and so like little things like that all go into the video production process. So I even talk about storage because I feel like nobody else talks about storage on, like, if you go and search on YouTube, I haven't found anyone that talks a lot about that. So I talk about like what you should prepare for whenever it comes to storage on your computer versus your device and whatever you're filming on and stuff like that. And so it's just kind of all encompassing of how to go from 0 to 100,
Cool.
So,
yeah, I'm looking forward for you guys getting all that content. Miggy Wiggy says, I lost it, but it says, great, I will very likely purchase unless Lennon brings up the Chiefs again.
Hey, listen, I didn't bring it up. I just, there's that old saying, if somebody starts it, I'll finish it. That's all.
That's like mealtime with all my little kids. I eat my plate, and then my seconds is everything that's left on their plate. So Lennon's laughing.
Yeah, I'm not trying to start a football war here. That's for sure. So definitely not. This is a YouTube thing, not a football thing.
Tim's going to go check his email, and he's going to find out that a bunch of people have reported his channel for... Yeah.
Somebody said 70 dislikes. My only thought is that it's probably all like Raiders fans or something.
Oh man. Well, we got the Super Bowl coming up here soon, so I guess we'll see how it all ends. But yeah, those of you guys who we do get to work with, like, I really do appreciate each of you guys, and it's so fun. Like Tronics Fix, I know he's in the chat here talking, and we've worked with him through Video Labs, and he's just right around the corner from 500,000 subscribers on his channel. And Snail Trail 4x4, good to see you again, man. I know we worked about a year ago or something like that. So it's been fun to see you guys. Oh, and Be Adventure Partners. Yeah, you guys went through Video Labs last year as well. And to see the growth that they've had, like off the charts growth, like 999% growth. So it's been fun to hang out with all of you guys. So thank you for the opportunity you provide us to help you guys reach more people, change their lives, and allowing us to be a part of that and helping you change your life and reach the goals that you have for the dreams and the lifestyle that you want to live. And we're looking forward to doing that more here this coming year. And letting you guys get to know Lena and Delana too as they start joining me more publicly, more so than just behind the scenes as they've been so far, and the three of us getting to do that with you guys going forward. So thank you guys for being a part of this awesome community. We really do appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll look forward to hanging out with you guys again next week for another Video Creators Podcast episode. We'll see you guys then. Bye.